In this video, we're going to talk about Lucid Motor, trading under the symbol LCID, formerly under CCIV. The main things we're going to talk about in this video are the recent movements of Lucid shares. Does it mean that it'll come back to its former glories? And more importantly, if it'll be the next big thing, like Tesla was and still is. We're also going to talk about how should the stock be traded. Before the video begins, if you like my content and would like to see more stock analysis videos, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more. Lucid has been a very hot topic in the stock market ever since it was announced to go public with a reverse merger with CCIV. It attracted the market's attention mostly because people realized that they may be sitting on the next Tesla. We have said this many times about NEO, we have said this about Fisker. We are hoping that some other titles like Li Auto or Candy will become something big as well. And then some nutcase also hoped that they would crush Tesla with its first name. So far, most of those projections have been proven wrong, or have yet to occur. But when it was announced that Lucid Air is going to be listed on Nasdaq, it was a different feeling that ticked off in people's mind. This is a company that targets high-end segment of EV vehicles, and it has been backed by a sovereign fund over the last 8 years. In other words, as far as the technology maturity and the reliability of testing, as well as the truthfulness of the operations are concerned, time has already helped us proving that the company has enough integrity and legitimacy to make sure that it's not going to be a second Nikola or Lordstown. Another one of Lucid's major advantage, which counted since the beginning but recently took an entirely different turn, is that it is American-based. It doesn't need to worry about tensions in the geopolitical side of things, and that was particularly true over the past few weeks and days. Ultimately, companies are vulnerable of their operational environment, market headwinds, and the different regulatory forces. And following that logic, the larger the company, the more of those issues are likely going to encounter because it would become a larger target for everybody. Anything may go wrong in different locations and jurisdictions, and in that sense, Lucid has actually an advantage over Tesla, NEO, Li Auto, and so on. But, let's be honest, this advantage is also like momentary, right? It's not going to last forever, especially if we want Lucid to actually grow. I'm just saying that right now, it has this advantage that it doesn't have the geopolitical side of things. It doesn't have the international exposure. So, compared to these companies, Lucid indeed has always had its operations restricted or limited in the United States. Its shareholders take for granted that it's not going to be negatively impacted by the dangers of getting delisted, the regulatory problems, and to avoid getting issues from the stock regulators. For example, it doesn't have to worry about how much impact there will be because of one of its factories doesn't work or suddenly ran out of electricity right after some tensions felt or appeared in local markets after a few weeks of international tensions or whatnot. Lucid Motors also benefits from a relatively tame news cycle for the company, specifically at the moment. It is, relatively new in the field, doesn't have much to prove yet, and plenty of good news to announce. And those announcements are now gearing towards ramping its production up. There may be an argument that its price is slightly overbought, but I don't think that this, in the current circumstances, this is a very important factor to consider. Mostly because the stock seems to be on the cusp of greater surges in the weeks to come. So there are some resistance levels or just resistance ahead. But I would say that right now, the price is fundamental dependent and not really reliant on any sort of technical aspects. In other words, don't think of the stock being overbought just because it has surged for multiple days. Yeah, normally, under normal circumstances, it would mean that we should maybe see a pullback before the stock goes higher, but it doesn't mean that in this regard. With that being said, there are still a few aspects to consider. There is a current shortage of microchips in the world, and although it didn't reach Lucid yet, it did reach Neo and has affected Tesla in the past. Microchips are a key component in a car, so not having it will limit its productions, which will in turn limit its growth and modify its profitability projections. Like I said, it's not something that's currently bothering Lucid, since it hasn't started to mass produce EV cars yet. But it's definitely something to keep in mind. This will have an incidence on how long you want to keep your shares for. If you would like to stay safe, then it's recommended to realize your gains every once a while and wait for pullbacks before going in again. And watch out for news regarding, microchips or international logistics. These kinds of news would be more of concern for Lucid once it starts to get vehicles out. Right now, it's not a current topic. Another consideration is the automation technology. In this regard, Tesla is definitely ahead of the pack. And Lucid is currently developing level 2 self-driving technology and says that it'll roll out level 4 in the future. We don't know how long this is going to take, but that may be another potential problem down the road, depending on if the EV market will start to be valued based on their level of self-driving. One final consideration may be the current global sentiment about risk-taking. So, like I said a bit earlier, I think that the tensions are rising along with a potential economic recession on the horizon. Recently, the US Federal Reserve began to emit some signals strongly suggesting that they believe that the market will go through a period of reduced growth and even negative growth. I'm not sure if they're accurate or that's just like fear mongering, but nevertheless, I would try to keep an eye out regarding the global situation in both geopolitical and macroeconomics, because this will end up having an impact on how much you want to dedicate to risk in investments like growth stocks or frontier markets or new markets like EV. It's not exactly a new market per se, but it's relatively new-ish, right? And my recommendation is to give about 5% of your portfolio in Lucid overall, but to make sure to buy in batches, hopefully on the dips to keep your cost low. Profit taking should happen every 30 to 50% increase, I would say, for Lucid. Thank you for watching. If you like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel.